Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible. So let me just check if this is live. So today we are going to discuss about pituitary gland and the associated hormones. Okay. So before I continue, let me introduce myself. I'm Vani Kari, biology educator at an academy. I'm an engineer with bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology and a B.Ed degree. Also a founder of a startup where I grow microgreens by vertical farming technology. So we'll discuss about some of the pituitary gland hormones. Okay, the hormones released by pituitary gland. So I think this is live. Okay, all right. So that's good. Okay, so let's have a look at what exactly is the endocrine glands first. Okay, so then we'll understand the role of this hormone release into the bloodstream. Okay, so endocrine glands, when we mention, so they do not have any duct. Okay, so there is no tube connected to a gland, so there is no tube like structure. So what happens, so there is a gland, okay, and without any tube like structure or without any duct, so directly this release which is occurring from the gland, so let's say it can be hormone. Okay, so now since we are discussing about the pituitary gland, so pituitary gland is going to release a hormone and that hormone is going to diffuse into the bloodstream directly without any duct. Okay, and that's the reason we call them as ductless glands as well. All right, so these are secreted substances secreted by the gland into the bloodstream directly, so they are going to diffuse into the bloodstream directly there. Okay, and they do produce hormones, so that is endocrine glands. So they do regulate lot of body functions as such, so sometimes specific to male or a female organ. So you can find certain hormones are produced only in case of male and certain hormones are produced only in females. Okay, so this is anyway going to vary depending on what type of a hormone release occurring and what type of a function is gonna be needed. Okay, so based on that there is a variation that can be seen. All right, so now let's have a look at what exactly or where exactly is the location of this pituitary gland. So pituitary gland, when we mention, so this is located in the bony cavity called sella turcica. Okay, so attached to the hypothalamus by a stalk. So you can see here this picture. So here anyway, so this picture which is mentioned here, so other terms are this. So for now you just understand this one is basically a pituitary gland. So excuse my cough. One second. Let me just check if the net is working. I'm having cough since almost 3 days now. Okay, so now this is attached to the hypothalamus, that is by a stalk. Okay, and you can find pea-sized and it is called as a master gland. So P is how much? It is only this small. Okay, and your pituitary gland which is there, so that is just pea-sized. Okay, and it is called as a master gland. Any idea why do we call it as a master gland? Any idea about that? Any of you? So why exactly do we call it as a master gland? Because it controls the hormones which has to be secreted by other glands. So that means all the other glands which are there, so they are under the control of this pituitary. Alright, and that's the reason, so we call this pituitary gland as the master gland. Alright, so let's have a look at the one which is given in your Selena. So this I have anyway taken from Selena. Alright, so the pituitary gland is basically a small projection. So this is the location that you need to write. So which hangs from the base of the midbrain below the hypothalamus. So below the hypothalamus you can find it. So that is which is hanging from the base of the midbrain. Okay, so this is the exact location, and you need to write the exact location while you are writing the location of this pituitary gland. Okay, so then what else is mentioned? So it is basically a size of a pea, so it is this tiny, and other than that it is popularly called as the master gland because it is controlling all the other endocrine glands. Okay, so this is again taken from Selena itself. You can have a look at this picture. So this is basically a hypothalamus in the middle brain. So you can see this part. So in the midbrain below the hypothalamus, so this is hanging, and you can see this is the stalk. So hypophyseal stalk we call, and this is anterior pituitary, this is posterior pituitary, and you can find intermediate lobe. Okay, so this is absent in some of the organisms, but yes, some do have it, and this is absent in most of them. So that is intermediate lobe. So now what exactly is the size? The pea size. And what it does, it releases the hormone. So that is, it is the endocrine gland. Okay, so some important hormones produced by the anterior lobe, so they are growth hormones. So what exactly does the growth hormone do? Any idea about this? So we name this as a growth hormone, right? So why do we call it as a growth hormone? So any specific reason for it? No idea? So why do we call it as a growth hormone? So growth hormone is essential for normal growth. Okay, so this is needed for normal growth, and we call this as a somatotropin. So now you know the child, since the toddler, let's say the newborn baby, then it becomes a toddler, then it becomes an adult. So basically adolescent, then adult, then old age. So how exactly growth is occurring? So there has to be something which is playing a role associated with rest of the mechanisms in our body, right? So this is basically the hormone, the growth hormone, which is going to bring about the changes in your body. So you can find certain increase in size, increase in mass. So this is basically cell division is possible, and the cell division is possible, that is because growth hormone is there. Okay, so now in that case, the deficiency of growth hormone in childhood, so you need to know this alternate name also anyway, so this I'll just put a star. So the deficiency of growth hormone in childhood, so this results in dwarfism. So in the childhood, if one is not having growth hormone, enough growth hormone, so it is basically leading to dwarfism. Okay, so that is, the person is going to remain short. Alright, so dwarf is though fully developed, so their body is in all, like it is completely developed, but you can find the proportion of the body is of a child. So that is basically this person, what you see here, so is fully grown in the sense with respect to all the metabolism, the thinking, whatever it is, so it is completely grown. But only thing is that, only with respect to body proportion, so this person is smaller. So now the giant, so this is basically 2.7 meters tall, so that is over secretion of growth hormone. The dwarf, who is about only 23 inches tall, so it is the under secretion of growth hormone. So now in this case, the over secretion in childhood, so if, like we saw already, in childhood, if under secretion is occurring, so it is leading to dwarfism. And what is the same thing in case of childhood? If over secretion is occurring, so that is leading to the gigantism. Okay, so gigantic body you can find, or gigantic height you can see. So gigantism is the condition. So the long bones lengthen beyond normal, and human giant up to 2.7 meters in height are produced, right? So if over secretion of the growth hormone suddenly occurs in adults, so this is in case of an adult where the growth hormone is started secreting like too much over secretion of this. So in that case, what is going to happen? So there is an extra growth of bone. Where exactly? So it is in the face. Okay, so in the face, particularly the jaw bones, so they are going to overgrow, and this face will be somewhat extended as such. Okay, so and in the hands as well as feet, so the person develops a large nose, because again these bones are here. Okay, so there is a omen here, then you can find nose bones here, so these are going to grow also. So you can find a large nose, thicker lips can be there. So this condition itself we call as acromegaly. All right, so acro is basically height or the extremity. Megaly, when we mention, it is large. Okay, so then another hormone, so one hormone that we saw, so this is growth hormone. Okay, so then there is another hormone that is being produced, so it is a thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, right? So thyroid stimulating hormone, what it does, it stimulates or it activates the thyroid gland. Okay, so that is to secrete the thyroid hormone. So which is that thyroid hormone? It is the thyroxine. So thyroid gland, which is located here at the neck region. Okay, so basically this particular pituitary, since we are calling it as a master gland, so this is going to secrete a hormone called as TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. So from the pituitary it goes to the thyroid gland here, then the thyroid gland will receive this thyroid stimulating hormone. So what is going to happen? So there is a thyroid secretion which will occur. Okay, so that means thyroid is going to secrete its own hormone, so that is the thyroxine. Okay, so thyroxine is having again different functions, so like basal metabolic functions are basically maintained there. So then gonad stimulating hormone, so what exactly is that now? So now the females are having a different gonads, the males are having a gonad. So basically the male reproductive system, female reproductive system. So in order for a development of these systems, okay, so be it a female or be it a male reproductive system, so again there is a master gland which is going to play a role. Okay, so master gland is basically the pituitary gland which will bring about the changes. So that is in what? So in ovary, so that is in case of female, and in testis, so that is in case of male. Okay, so gonads are stimulated, so these can also be called as gonadotropic hormone. They regulate the activities of testis and ovary, right? So testis in case of a male, where the sperm production occurs. Ovaries in case of a female, where the ova or the egg production occurs, right? So then there is adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. So this ACTH, what it does, it regulates the activity of adrenal cortex. So I think you might have already studied excretory system, even if you have not. So basically in the kidney you can find there is a cortex region and the medulla region, right? So same way the adrenal gland, when we mention, so in case of adrenal gland also you can find the cortex region and the medulla region. So now this adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, is going to regulate the activity of the adrenal gland, so specifically the cortex part of the adrenal gland here. Okay, so the term tropic hormone refers to such hormones which stimulate other endocrine glands, so to produce their specific hormones such as gonadotropic hormones. Okay, so now here tropic hormone is basically asked lot of times. Okay, let me just drink some water. Okay, so now the term tropic hormone, when we mention, okay, so this refers to such hormones which stimulate other endocrine glands, that is to produce their specific hormone, such as gonadotropic hormone. So that means now the pituitary gland which is releasing a particular hormone, so that is going to stimulate other hormones. Okay, so when a stimulation is done by other hormone. So let's say one particular hormone has to be released, so there's another hormone which has to come, and so that is going to make the other gland to release another hormone. So that means the tropic hormone refers to such hormones which stimulate other endocrine glands to produce their specific hormones, such as gonadotropic hormone secreted by the anterior pituitary, and also stimulate gonad to produce certain other hormones. So tropic means influencing activity or influencing the activity of the named organs, such as thyrotropic, so that is for thyroid, adrenocorticotropic for adrenal cortex, etc. I hope you got this one. Okay, let me just check this. Okay, so now the hormones, when we consider from posterior pituitary, so the posterior lobe is going to produce again two types of hormones. Okay, so there are two hormones which are produced by the posterior pituitary. So one is vasopressin, okay, which can also be called as, where's the cursor? Okay, here it is. So vasopressin, okay, so this can also be called as an antidiuretic hormone. Okay, so it is vasopressin as well as oxytocin is produced by the posterior pituitary. So let's have a look at what exactly is the function of this antidiuretic hormone, okay, which is also called as the ADH. So a lot of times the exams, they have asked what exactly is the alternative name given for the ADH hormone. So you can write vasopressin. So if they are giving vasopressin, so what exactly is the alternate name of vasopressin, then you can write it as a ADH. Alright, so antidiuretic hormone, which we also call as a vasopressin, so this is going to constrict blood vessels with rise in blood pressure. So that means what we can mention here is, there is a water absorption which is going to occur. Okay, so if there is ADH hormone, so water absorption will occur. So like when the blood filtration occurs, so there is lost, lots of water content is basically lost. So that is through the glomerular filtrate. So then what happens? There is a reabsorption process which is going to occur. So after the ultrafiltration process, it is a reabsorption process. Now for reabsorption to occur, so there has to be this hormone. Okay, so if there is an antidiuretic hormone present, then the reabsorption of water is possible. Okay, so this will constrict blood vessels with raise in blood pressure. Okay, so it also acts on kidneys, so that is basically increasing reabsorption of water from the kidney tubule. So water absorption is the main function, and also constricting the blood vessel with raise in blood pressure is also the function. Okay, so now in that case, if this ADH hormone is not there, okay, so antidiuretic hormone what we mentioned, so if this is not there, so this is going to cause diabetes in people. All right, so diabetes, what type of diabetes? Not the insulin deficient diabetes, but the diabetes insipidus, not the diabetes mellitus. Okay, so it is diabetes insipidus, which is basically different because the hormones which is going to bring about this change is not the insulin hormone but the ADH hormone. So in that case, you can say frequent urination. So what exactly is diabetes insipidus? So you can find a frequent urination in people, so that is water diabetes, in which urination is frequent and copious. Okay, so resulting in loss of water from the body, and the person may become thirsty often. Okay, so that means water absorption, so water is basically taken by the body, okay, and it is taken into the blood. Okay, then the circulation occurs. Now if you keep on urinating, so basically if the urination goes on happening, so all the water is basically going out through the urine, right? So there is, what will happen? So if the all the water is going out through the urine, so basically one would feel thirsty. Okay, so in that case, deficiency of ADH can cause water diabetes, because the ADH hormone is not there, so it is causing a diabetes insipidus, that is water diabetes in people where the urination is frequent. Okay, so where the result is basically the loss of water from the body and the person becomes thirsty easily. So remember here this is mentioned, so because lot of them will get confused, so they have already given, so what exactly you need to note. So the diabetes means here out excessive amounts of, so diabetes is basically meaning passing out excessive amount of urine. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so now there are two types of diabetes. You can find two types of diabetes. One is diabetes mellitus, which is the urine is going to have a glucose, that is sugar in it. Okay, where it is caused by deficiency of insulin, not the ADH. So we don't call it as a water diabetes. Okay, but in case of diabetes insipidus, so there is no sugar, so you do not find sugar in urine. So insipid means tasteless, so this is blank, alright, referring to the absence of sugar in urine. So you do not find sugar in urine. And melly is basically honey or sweet. So what exactly is melly? So melly is honey or sweet. So you can find a sweet urine because glucose is not converted into glycogen, so you can find glucose in urine. Okay, so that is sugar in urine, and melly is basically honey or sweet. Alright, I hope this is clear. Any doubt in this part? Let me just check your comments. Okay, there are no doubts as such, right? Okay. Okay, so now for the second one is the oxytocin. Okay, so oxys is sharp or a quick. Okay, then tokos is what? Childbirth. So this is a Greek term. Okay, so childbirth, during a childbirth, so there is a vigorous or a quick contraction of the muscle is required, so that basically dilation of the cervix you can see, and the fetus which is there inside, so that is going to come out easily. Okay, only after the cervix dilation, and there is a continuous muscular contraction that occurs. So now in this case, the oxytocin is going to stimulate vigorous contraction of the uterus, so specifically the smooth muscles, so that is the endometrium. Okay, so there is the endometrium which is there, so that is where the fetal growth is occurring, where the blastocyst what is formed, so that is going to attach at the endometrium. Okay, so endometrium is where it is attached, but you can find there is a myometrium also. Okay, so that is where you can see there is a vigorous contraction, and with that vigorous contraction in smooth muscles of the uterus, so basically the fetus is pushed down. Okay, so now in that case, the uterus in a pregnant mother leading to the birth of the baby, also stimulating the milk ejection. So let me just explain you this. Alright, so now let's say I hope you understood about this one. So that is uterus. So let me just draw it here and explain. Okay, so you can find this is this is the outer one. So then you can find myometrium there. So this is myometrium, the middle one. Okay, so this is myometrium, and then you can find endometrium here. So endometrium is where the blastocyst attaches, and then there is, let's say, here is the fetus which is growing inside. Okay, so now in this case, this particular myometrium, what you see, so the myometrium has to go vigorous contraction. Okay, so only after the myometrium goes vigorous contraction, so this part, so you can see the child is going to take birth, so that is by dilation. So this is basically a cervix, so cervix is going to dilate, and you can see childbirth occurring there. Okay, so that is possible. Have, so here what exactly happens is, Let me just explain you this. Okay, so what exactly happens is, so here this place is basically, you can see myometrium, where the receptors are there for oxytocin. So these receptors are going to receive the oxytocin and it leads to childbirth. So same way with respect to, so once the oxytocin binds here, so basically there is a vigorous contraction that you can see. Okay, so now if I have to explain you about the what is it, the milk ejection, so there also basically once the prolactin forms the um, milk, okay, so prolactin is mainly there for milk synthesis. So once the prolactin synthesizes the milk in the lobes, so that is mammary lobes, so ejection has to be done. So there is an external stimulus that is required. So fetus sucking onto the milk, okay, so that is nipple, and that is exactly the stimulus. Where the stimulus is taken to the brain, the posterior pituitary is then going to release the oxytocin. So this oxytocin is going to bring about changes where the ejection of the produced or synthesized milk is going to occur from the mammary lobes, okay, and that is how the baby is going to get the milk while suckling, okay. So that is because there is the oxytocin hormone, but for synthesizing it is the prolactin hormone. So here the overall summary of the hormones they have given, so just make a note here. Okay, so this is with respect to anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary, the two lobes of the pituitary gland, okay. So growth hormone which is produced, so that is mentioned, so rest of them are all tropic hormones, okay. So under tropic hormone you have thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, gonadotropic hormone. So under gonadotropic hormone you can find there is a FSH, LH, okay, so prolactin. So you'll anyway study about these in detail in higher classes as well. Then you can see whenever you are studying these hormones, no, so just make sure that you are perfect with the hyposecretion and hypersecretion condition. So this is very important, okay. So which gland produces which hormone, and what happens if there is hypersecretion, and what happens if there is a hyposecretion of these hormones, okay. So as mentioned, deficiency, excess, so over secretion and under secretion. So this is basically over secretion, okay. So this is under secretion, hypo, okay. So these you need to know. And tropic hormone, so they have given the function. So tropic hormone, this question is asked lot of times, like what exactly is tropic hormone. So you need to know what is tropic hormone. So it is basically a hormone that is stimulating other endocrine glands to release further hormones, okay. And other than that, this is already discussed. So then from posterior pituitary, just a second, yeah, so from posterior pituitary you can find, so there is an antidiuretic hormone. So this antidiuretic hormone ADH or the vasopressin which is there, so this is the alternate name. Again this is also asked many times. So this anyway I have again taken from Selena, okay. So this I have taken from Selena, okay. So a lot of times this is asked, what is the alternative name for antidiuretic hormone. So just make sure that it is vasopressin, okay. So the function is mentioned, so we discuss about this function also. Oxytocin is again having specifically the two functions, so that also is discussed. So one is mainly during the uterine contraction during the pregnancy, that is specifically the delivery, okay. Then another one is the milk ejection from the mammary gland when the stimulus is by a child, so that is suckling action, okay. Alright, so we are done with this pituitary hormone discussions and its hormone function as well. So if you know that, so that is more than enough. So endocrine glands are ductless glands, or what glands? So it is mentioned endocrine glands are duct glands. So whether this is true or false, anybody has any idea about this? So are endocrine glands duct glands or ductless? So these are basically ductless, right? So these are not duct glands. So dash hormone stimulates contraction of smooth muscle. So it is the oxytocin hormone which stimulates the contraction. So another name for vasopressin, so it is ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. Tropic hormone stimulates certain other endocrine glands. So yes, that's true. Okay, so this is the one which is asked repeatedly. So just make sure that you know what is tropic hormone. All right. Okay, all right. So we are done with today's session. So any doubts that you guys have, so you can send your doubts on my Telegram channel. So that is Vanikari ICSC and ISC class 9 and 10. So basically Vanikari ICSC class 9 and 10 you can search on Telegram, so you'll find it. And so subscribe to our new channel, so that is ICSC and ISC Masters. Click on bell icon to get notified about the session. Like and share the video, and if you need this PDF you can join my Telegram channel there, and just ping me there so I can send this PDF there. Okay, all right then. So thank you all. So see you all in the next session. Bye bye everyone. Take